This episode of Do the Work Podcast, Real Estate Edition, is brought to you by Jason Smith team at Nova Home Loans. Jason, a Navy veteran, has been recognized as one of the top 100 loan originators in the country. There is no task too big or too small for the Jason Smith team. Every client counts. For the best rates and great service, contact Jason at 480-227-6231 or visit novahomeloans.com. I personally stand by his service, and so do thousands of satisfied clients. That's Jason Smith at Nova Home Loans. NMLS number 210839. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Did I just
Don't mess with my white Nikes.
White Nikes.
Don't mess
I
with
think
my
I put
white
my
Nike.
foot
You
all
know
over.
how to take care of my shoes.
You like kicked me under the table. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Piss me off right now. I'm on fire.
Welcome to another episode of Do the Work Podcast, Love and Business. I'm your host, AZ Araujo, along with
Carla Araujo.
the beautiful, my best friend, my wife, and the person sometimes I love and hate them. You know, hate is a strong word, but sometimes,
Can you say dislike?
Dislike. I didn't want to say hate.
Go
I
with
don't
dislike.
I dislike you sometimes,
Hey,
just
hey.
like you dislike me. That's okay. Doesn't
Hate
mean I
your-
don't love you.
All right, well, hate's throwing me off my
No,
game.
but I admire you, and I'll tell you why, Carla. I'll tell you why. There was one phrase you used a while back, and I simply asked you a question like, how do you keep going? Because I'm impressed. I mean, I live with you. We've been together for 20 plus years, right? And I'm impressed.
I
I'm
appreciate
impressed
that.
on the
I
way you
appreciate
just
that.
attack everything. And I remember asking you one day, I'm like, how do you keep going? Because there's some days I just want to shut down. There's many years I've shut down, as you've experienced, as we've mentioned before. And you just, regardless of how painful it got, how dark it got, you were just always going. And sometimes you were riddled with anxiety. Sometimes the depression would get you, but it was like you were still maneuver your way through it. But you said something to me very important. You said, I am a competitor, and that is what keeps me going. No one is going to beat me today. So that's the topic that I want to discuss, because I think if people really need to understand, you know, that type of mindset is really going to get you what you want out of life, right?
Right.
But how did you come up with that mindset? Like, I'm a competitor. Where did you get that from? And
Because I didn't realize that who I actually was until I think during my time that I was competing for the 5-6 years, probably longer.
And when you say competing, you were trying to go for your IFBB Pro
Yep.
card as a figure competitor.
Right. So over the years, I just kept failing. I kept losing. I kept placing in the wrong places that I needed to become that pro. So it was just over and over and over. And the pain that I had to go through, I didn't realize, like, I'm so competitive that I woke up every day and it's like, no one is going to beat me today. No one is going to beat me today. And by me saying that, it was like I had to beat myself. She was not going to lose, and she was going to win. But, you know, I believe there's always these two people living inside of us, right? The person who doesn't want to do it and the person who's going to, do it.
Go kill it,
Yeah,
right.
go kill it. So the person who didn't want to do it was kind of that battle of like, don't do it. It's not worth it. You're going to lose anyway. To like, no, get out of my way. I'm a competitor and I will become the best in what I see in the mirror. And so just every day I had to give myself that mindset, because if not, I would had shut down many years ago. Obviously there's so many things that come into our lives. While I was competing, it was like, is it worth it? My business is falling apart. Is it worth it? My marriage is falling apart. It was like, no, I'm a competitor and I'm going to be good at all things. It's not just going to be one area of my life. So I started wiring myself. 3-4 o'clock in the morning is when I started waking up. Like, I have to wake up before the world wakes up. I have to wake up before that other person wakes up and tells her she cannot do it. She's tired. She's exhausted. It's like my eyes open up, and that's why I become accustomed to when you wake up, I'm like, good morning.
yeah, you are.
I'm like, hello, hi. So I jump out, because the first thought that goes into your mind can break you for the whole day.
You're right.
So
yes.
if I wake up like, man, I'm tired, I'm like, no, you're a competitor, and you will wake up. So it's like, good morning, boom. I've already entered that positive light, that mindset that's going to continue for the rest of the day in that light. So everybody's like, why are we so happy? Why? It's like, because my day starts at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning smiling without me saying my back hurts, I'm tired. I'm like, no, good morning. Boom, right there, I let it all out. That's all positive energy that comes in. or goes, comes in, and your mindset is already set for the day.
You are wiring yourself, because if you set a foundation of I'm not, no one's going to beat me today.
Right.
And then you wake up with that mindset of being
Right.
positive, because every morning it is good morning. It's always in a high tone, upbeat type of format.
Right.
What happens on those days that you're not? We all go through this. We're inspired one day, we're motivated. But how do you get over that in order to go ahead and continue to move forward powerfully each and every day?
So when I have those days, and I have them often, and I just said that today, this morning, I'm like, I'm not having a very good day. My anxiety's so high. And you know me, for the last couple of days, I woke up with that anxiety, but I'm constantly talking to that other person. Like, what is triggering you right now? What is happening?
I'll actually catch you talking to yourself. Like, who are you talking to? I'm looking around. I'm like, who's over there?
Because I'm mindful of my own thoughts. So I always sit there in my own thoughts. Like, why are you thinking this way? Why do you feel this way? So I'm constantly battling that, and I'm constantly winning. I will win. She will no longer lose. I will win, because that other person is constantly telling me, I can't, you won't, they don't like you, this is going to happen, that. So it's like the worst, but I'm mindful of my own thoughts. Like, why are you thinking this way? You are a competitor, and you will win today. So the more positive things I say to myself, the more the outcome it's like fire. It's like fire to me constantly, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. But again, the negativity wants to enter, like everybody else. We're all human, right? But that's when you have to sit in your own thoughts and talk to yourself as to, why are you thinking this way? Why are you fearing this? Why are you not doing that? So and the more you really sit in your own thoughts, you start to discover more about you. You start to discover your weaknesses. Yeah. And that's why that person is never going to, if you're trying to win, you're not going to win the day. If you're not sitting there in your own thoughts, if you're going 1,000 miles an hour without processing what that looks like and what might come at you, you're really not taking the day in consideration as like, what if something stops me? So I'm always talking to myself, like, because I go through that. So you'll catch me, the kids catch me talking to myself, because I'm thinking, like, I'm sitting there in my own thoughts and really talking to the person as to, like, if negative things come my way, how am I going to stop it?
So with the anxiety, that's always been something that you've discussed and was something that essentially got you to start appreciating your journey, your experiences, and everything else. Do you remember the day that you just decided to, like, shed that whole story of, like, I'm not, like, being anxious all the time, and just saying, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there, because anxiety tends to slow you down by thinking she doesn't like me, or this group of people are going to laugh at me, or they're not going to think highly of me, or it's all these negative thoughts that usually come on the opinions of others.
Yeah,
and I think
we all go through anxiety. It's just the way we handle it is a little different. So I think we all go through that anxiety, right? But with me, I don't allow myself to pass it without thinking and really processing as to why it started. And that's the only way that I'm going to understand my own thought and process, so it never comes back again, but it's going to come back in different formats. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like, so my anxiety came through what other people were going to think of me,
yes.
right? Just because that's just kind of the way I grew up, and, whatever. So I ended up telling myself, okay, what do I fear most? I fear being behind the camera. I fear talking. I fear, people discovering me. I fear all these things, right? So the best remedy that I ever did was grab the phone and make a video and give it to the world and say, I have anxiety. And that right there alone really, I spoke. I believe, like, when we talk about all our fears and all our embarrassments, we were wise, because what holds us back is the things that we think people will discover of us. Yeah. So one thing that I hid was, like, I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to say too much about myself, because people are going to discover that I do have anxiety, that I'm scared of them. People are going to discover my depression. So now that I talk about that, amongst other things, it's like, well, you really can't come back at me and say anything to me. So I just became more powerful. But I didn't sit there and ignore the anxiety. So when people get this anxiety, they're kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna keep going. It's like, no, you should sit there for a little bit and really, in your own thinking, your own thoughts, as to why you have anxiety, as to why you're fearing and stopping X, Y, and Z. You'll really start to really nitpick all your weaknesses and start to rise. But if you're trying to figure out, everybody has anxiety. Everybody, you just keep going. I'm like, I've never said I wasn't. I'm way ahead of the game. I'm out there already. But what got me going was thinking, if I fear, then I'm going to do it, because it's only going to make me stronger. So I released, and I release and you will rise. So I did exactly that.
You release and you will rise. I hear you saying that often, even in your women's events. you will release, and
And
if
you
you
will
release,
rise.
and you will rise. I don't think we understand how much is actually holding us back, right? And it's usually the thoughts of our past experiences, traumatic events that really keep us at a certain place. But having this mindset that I'm a competitor really just aligns you with the things that you want in life, right? I'm a competitor, and that's really rubbed off on me. In everything that I do, I'm just waking up. I'm like, okay, if this person's doing it, if this person can tolerate it. If I'm in a situation where I'm hurting, if I'm doing something sports wise or with my marathons, that's what kind of keeps me going. Understanding that I'm not going to quit because somebody else is enduring it. I am a competitor. And this whole notion of no one's going to beat me today, that really fires me up. I'm even fired up by you even talking about it.
I even went through that in my marriage. Even when we were falling apart, every day it was just like, this marriage is not going to fall apart. I will not lose. I will win. I will win, because that other person going into the marriage was very hateful. She wasn't who you actually married. So it was like that person wanted to take over. So it was like, no, I had to sit in my own mindset, my own thoughts as to why is my marriage falling apart. Not what he's doing, which would be you. It's like, what am I doing, or I can do better. And again, I brought out, hey, by the way, you didn't know, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have all these things. And you're like, oh man, who's this person? I'm like, that's not who she really is. This is who I am. But I had to sit there for a while and really I am not going to lose this marriage. I'm going to win, and I'm going to prove to myself and that other person that I can make this happen. And 22 years later, here I am. I am a competitor at everything I do. And that is my mindset. I will not lose. I wake up every day. I will not lose. And everything I do, I will win. And same thing when I started the women program. Same thing when I started the fitness. I will not. And everybody tried to shut me down on the fitness. Everybody tried to come at me. It's like, you don't know where I come from. You don't know who I am. Come at me. I will win, and I will beat you. I will beat you. And I'm here today. And I'm a winner.
It's almost like you have to prove it to yourself, right? Because, part of it when you say I will not get beat is because you have been beaten before.
Right.
And that puts you in a place of weakness. It puts you in a place of doubting yourself when you believe those thoughts. So when you come at this, it's not necessarily that you want to beat them or wish them ill will.
No.
It's just to understand that you will not use your words to hinder your progression,
right,
like it was once used as a child, as a teenager, or so on and so forth, right?
And I love the way I grew up. I love my childhood, and I don't regret it for a minute, because all that brought me to the person I am today. I needed that fire, and there's days that I'm like, oh man, today's dreadful, right? And I'm like, no, Carla, you've been here before. You've been here before, and it feels good. And so when I always tell people, like, what fires me in the gym and what fires me in my marriage and the business, like, I always bring my past to the forefront, because my past is what fires me up. I'm not going to be that person any longer. I'm not that person any longer. But when we try to hide from our past, it's like you hide your purpose. You hide it. It's like, what is my purpose today? And so my past has to come to the forefront. And so I'm always bringing things up in my own mind. I'm like, damn, you're not going to beat me today. Damn, you're good. Man, you're a beast. And all these things. And that's what fires me up in anything I do, from business to my marriage to, relationship with my kids and the gym. But if you're just kind of going in like, all roses, nothing's happening today. I'm like, no, where's your fire coming from?
So you're saying
you need fire. You
can't get fire from happiness?
I think you can, but not me. I mean, maybe you can, but I can't. I can't. Why would I need the fire if I'm happy?
Yeah.
I can't.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I can. I go in the gym, or I go into when we opened up the building, all these things that are happening, like, I have to go bring my past to the forefront. Who told me I can't? Watch me. Who told me no? Watch me. So I get angry. So I start to really think, and I start to clear my mind when that past comes to the forefront. And you're not going to see that. I don't discuss it, but it's me talking to myself. Like, you are not going to be, and I need her because I need that fire. But if I'm going to, oh yeah, it's like, no, you have to be competitive. If you're not competitive with yourself and you're going in with all happiness, where's your fire?
Yeah, because when you're competitive, that means you have a target. Right? You have a target.
Yeah.
But if you're like friendly and happy-go-lucky all the time, it's like, who's the target? Nobody's a target. No one's going to fire you up. But if you look at these great athletes, these great business people, they always had a chip on their shoulder. How important is it to have that chip on your shoulder?
Sometimes when I train.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Did I just heard it?
Don't mess with my white Nikes.
White Nikes.
Don't mess
I
with
think
my
I
white
put my
Nike.
foot
You know,
all
how,
over.
you know how I take care of my shoes.
You like kicked me under the table. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Piss me off right now. I'm on fire. No, you know, when I train some of the women, I always tell them, like, if you don't bring that fire in you, it's just a workout.
Yes.
It's just a workout. It's just an everyday workout, and I get it. I totally get it, but I don't come from that world. I come from a world that is not pretty, and I really love that world because it fires me up on a daily basis. So when you don't go in there angry, you're just getting that workout. That's it.
You're just going through the motions.
Just going through, man, this weekend, I got to tell you, I was on fire. Woke up, I think it was on Saturday. I flipped, I think, what is it? How much is that?
I don't know how. That's a big tire, though. It's a big industrial
It's like
type.
90, 100 pounds, 120 pounds. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a couple.
It's right. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know how heavy that thing is. I actually flipped that thing 120 times. That's kind of where I stopped counting. And it was like nothing. To still go and lift the weight inside. And now it's just a tire flip of a superset.
No, I saw the aftermath. You had like tire marks on your forehead, on your arms. But like, what got you to that level? What were you thinking that got you there to start flipping that?
Because I woke up and I was just like, man, today I have so much, I'm so angry today. I had so much work that I have to get done. I have so many things. So I'm so angry because I'm like, how could I have fallen back behind? So anyway, there's so much things behind it that got me angry that I was like, dude, I'm freaking fired up, and I wish I can cuss right now. I don't want to cuss. So instead of, I'm like, I'm going to go outside, do what I need to do, and just kill it. And then I came back in and just started working away and started masterminding with you and looking at numbers, started doing things.
Yeah.
But
And you
if
were
I
really
would've-
patient because we went over some numbers and there was some disparities on some things, and you could have easily, like, if you weren't in that place where you kind of released that rage, where you released that fury, to get yourself into a good, I think that's where we typically bump heads.
Right, we would've bumped
When I started
heads.
questioning, hey, what's going on here? What happened here? And it's like, you just took it like, hey, these are the numbers, this is
Right.
what's going on. You explained it, but sometimes you would get triggered by that, which would cause like blowouts. It was hard to have discussions about business with one another because it was always like you felt I was blaming you. But when you did, you got fired up just because there was so much on the table, and the moves that we're making is huge, right? So you went out there and you kind of released that.
I released it. I didn't go out there happy.
Yeah.
And I love those days. I have a lot of them where I just don't go out there happy. And so, but if I went out there happy, I wouldn't have been able to flip that 120 times like nothing. And I seriously just stopped counting after that because I'm like, this is so easy. And I came in like nothing. So it wasn't my mind that made the move. It was my brain that was like, you're a badass and nobody's going to beat you today. My body's capable of everything my mind tells it to. My mind was just like, you're a badass and you can do 400 reps out here and you can keep going. And that's exactly what I did. And I'm like, I got to go inside 2 hours later. I got to go inside, and now my mind is clear, and I'm able to look at things that I need to clear, and I need to take care of. But if I would have went straight forward into the work, it was just like, again, I would have been beat. I would have been beat because I would have felt exhausted. My mind would have been cleared. I would have been arguing with you.
Yeah.
Instead, I woke up, and I'm like, dude, I have so much on my plate, and I love every bit of it. But by enjoying that overwhelming feeling, I have to go do what I do best and go out there in the gym and just kill it.
Kill it.
And not go out there happy and skipping and be like, oh, hey, Carla,
Or
talking about
overwhelmed
it. Yeah.
and down on yourself.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because if you get beat by the work, it's, all the paperwork and everything that you have to take care of. I mean, it really destroys the day. But if you go out and say, okay, if I can handle this pain over here, I can handle the pain of trying to catch up and do all these other things.
It's kind of one of those things when you work all day. I talk to people and I'm like, I worked all day. I didn't have a chance to eat.
Yeah.
You lost. You lost. You didn't take care of your health. You didn't say good morning to your wife. You didn't send her a sweet little text. You lost. You dug yourself into work to give yourself 100% to yourself, to your clients, 100% of you to your clients, and anything around you. You lost. Try to live like that. Try to live a life like that years.
Yeah, for years.
We'll see
It
how
destroys it.
overweight you are, how depressed you are, divorced. All these things are going to happen to you. You lost. And I'm not a loser. I'm not going to lose. I will win in my marriage, I will win in my business, and I will win in my fitness level. What I see through my eyes, that to me is just, I'm a champ, and I'm just a competitor overall. I'm not, and so when people are like, oh, hey, when they're bringing up this whole trainer thing, I'm like, watch me.
Yeah.
And now I have some stuff going. Now I have the programs going. Now I have the app going. I have all these things going. Because when someone tells me you can't, I'm going to step it up a little bit.
You almost need those people, right?
Oh, I love them.
I remember one time when you were like, man, things are just going so well. I'm starting to lose myself. Like the things that I used to go to fire me up, things from my past, they don't hurt me as much. So you have to just look for those things, right, to really keep you going.
Yeah, I have to. Sometimes I can't believe there's certain things in my life. I'm like, I'm happy. I love being happy. Don't take me wrong. It's a beautiful thing. But you need that. You need your past to come to the forefront, or at least, and you need to bring it out. That's the only way you're going to rise. And for the most part, some people won't. They're just going to go to death with it, and then you're going to sit in your bed regretting, like, at old age, like, damn, I could have done more. It's too late. You've lost. You live the life that you set yourself up for. That's pretty much it. And I'm not going to lose. I want to make sure the day I die, I'm like, I did everything. I did everything possible, and I went hard. And that's it. And so when I go, and I'm a huge believer, when I'm facing and I'm there telling God stories, I'm going to be like, I did everything you told me to do. I followed my voice. You told me to do these things, and I did them. You told me my story, my past was for a purpose and a reason. Expose it, and I did. And this is how many lives I was able to help out. And that's my purpose. So, I win. At the end of the day, I win.
Amazing. Now I can feel your energy, and I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And this mindset has allowed you to rise up as a powerful woman and impact many where lives have changed. And it's showcases how much of a responsibility it is for us to rise up to that level. But it begins with the mindset first and foremost. It begins with digging deep into those things that we're avoiding, the things that we think hold us back, because for many years you thought your anxiety held you back. You thought your depression, I remember you saying, I wish I didn't have this. Now you're just like, okay, it's just something else I have to be.
Yep. And I always, somebody
Can you
was...
put down the air, please.
Do you see me covering up my hands?
It's a little chilly in here.
Covering up my hands.
You have a big sweater on. You probably can't feel it.
I'm frozen right now.
So.
No, as I was saying, I think there's a lot of times that when I sit and I'm always thinking like, you're too embarrassed or too scared to do a certain thing. I'm always, when I have that enter me, like the shame and the embarrassment and the fear, it's the best feeling in the world, because it tells me that I need to do it. So it's the best feeling in the world. I love it. But I was told one time, if you have anxiety and depression, then you must not believe in God and your faith is not power. I'm like, no. God gave me this for a reason. He didn't to make moves. And that's what that anxiety is. And you told me that one time.
Yeah.
Turn your anxiety around. Own up to it. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I was just talking about this on Mindset Mastery, because on Friday I talked to you about it. I got this vision, and all of a sudden I got paralyzed by it because it was so big, and as opposed to just discrediting it or just disregarding it, I leaned into it, and it was overwhelming because it's much bigger than where I'm at now. The threshold to get there is much farther than where I'm at right now. But it is a vision. It's a vision that I saw for myself. I saw for our family. That's going to be a reality. Right. It's going to be a reality. Right. But at first, that anxiety, those visions. Yeah.
And I think, and you brought that to me like a couple of years back, like own up to that anxiety. It's not the anxiety that you think. And so my faith started growing stronger. And so I started just started really talking to him and really learning more about, the Word of God. And so when I have that anxiety, it's a game changer. I actually enjoy it because I know it's something that I should be doing.
It's a precursor to something else greater.
Yeah. So I don't believe when someone told me, if you have anxiety, you must not believe in God. No. I think you got that wrong. God actually is using me. He's actually giving me this anxiety to really shut down and sit in my own thoughts as to what is my next move. So I get so anxious and I get so nervous. I block myself out. I close myself in, and I don't want to hear anything. I shut my phone off. I shut the blinds. But it's only to sit in my own thought and really talk to that other woman as to what she needs to do, and really sit there and pray and like, okay, got it. It doesn't mean the anxiety is going to go away, but now I have more clarity as to why the anxiety is there. So I go hard, and it's like me running 1,000 miles an hour and just bumping people off the road, like get out of my way. And so when you see me and you're like, and I was talking to you the day, like, hey, your anxiety is way too much for me. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Oh, the intensity. You were just intense
Yeah.
about everything. And I was like, I think we were discussing next moves on something else, but it was just overwhelming. I was like, dude, it's a lot
Because
right
I had so much in my mind. I'm like, we got to do this. We got to do this. And you're like, hey, calm down. And I'm like, no. So I'm embracing it now.
Yeah,
I'm embracing
yeah.
it. And so, like I said,
And
I'm
just
going
'cause
1,000
others-
miles an
yeah.
hour. And just because you guys can't keep up with me
now. Or handle it. yeah.
it's like, get the hell out of my way then. So that's kind of me, and I own up to it. And before, you used to be like, okay, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Was I too high? It's like, no. So I embrace that. And that's something you told me, like, embrace that anxiety, man. You can really make shit happen. And I didn't realize that.
The way I would describe it is like you come out with the torch, right? And you want to burn everyone down, like when you're so intense. And I'm like, if you can figure out a way to, like, use it like a laser.
Yeah.
Oh, you would just be like a sniper, like, making your points and making moves. Because before it was just so much, everything around you would burn down, But now it's like a laser. You're real focused on being able to use your I guess is your blessing, the thing that makes you to your advantage by being methodical about the process, as opposed to just like, burning everything down.
And I wouldn't have saw that. I wouldn't have saw that easy if I really didn't sit down with you and treat you as my coach. I think you would have, if I would have sat down with you and discussed this with you, and I didn't, and if I didn't set you aside of like, okay, this is my coach and this is my husband, I would have saw criticism. Yeah. But instead I was like, okay, my husband's over here and my coach is telling me I need to be that laser. I need to go at that right more. And then after you, it was like, okay, I need to continue coaching to see if this other individual is saying the same thing, right? So not that I fired you for my coaching,
no.
But I had to move you aside. And the other hard coach, it was freaking an arm and a leg, and it was well worth it, because they also explained the exact same thing as you did. So I'm like, this all makes sense. So, and then I came back to you and, I feel like I hired you as my coach, but because I had to move aside the husband, and you taught me so much. And it was like, man, what am I doing? I am very, very strong and powerful, and I need to go at this really hard. But I also, like I said, my faith grew, and I had to sit there and understand, I get it. I get why you put me in this position. And I need to go hard because I don't want to live in regret. Yeah. So I did. And that is my mindset. I am a competitor and I will win today. And I wake up early. I wake up 3:34 in the morning.
Every day.
Immediately. Good morning. And I'm like this happy because it sets the tone for the rest of the day. It sets the tone and no one's going to beat me. And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. No, and I remember like your energy was so much that towards the middle of the day you would like crash. Now you're able to come in and just be, again, methodical with the same intensity, but without the amount, exuded, right? And what you're able to accomplish throughout the day is I think that's why we're in the position we're at, because watching you grow inspired me to continue to grow as well. And I think that's what a lot of marriages miss, right? If one person becomes complacent, it's easier to also become complacent as opposed to like continue to rise up. Right. And as I was rising, you rose, and it's like this almost a competitive between the two of us.
Right.
Like we're not going to be left behind. Right. You're doing you're coaching women. You're working out hard. I'm doing these these Ironman 70.3s, these triathlons, and it's like these things kind of keep us in line of also showcasing our best to one another. Right? Because when you're a competitor, you're essentially telling the other party that you are just as good or out to beat them, right? So they have to raise the bar. And we've brought that type of mindset into our relationship, not to say that we're trying to outdo one another, but it's like, hey, we have a responsibility to continue to rise the bar. And we've done that. And even with the business and the next moves we're making. You walked in right before you said this, and you're like, hey, we got to make this move next. This is something we discussed about 2 weeks ago. And the investment we have to put into this next venture is massive, right? Yeah. And you're like walking in, you're like, all right, we have to do that. And I'm like, oh, shit, now I'm starting to get anxious again before this thing. But it's the trust that you have in me, and it's the trust that I have in you. I know that you're not going to quit on me, and vice versa. It's going to be hard, but I think that's something that we have to, that people that are watching this have to bring into the relationship, realizing that just as competitive as you are outside of your marriage, you also have to bring that competitiveness in.
Right.
Because I've seen, men that are on this trajectory right?
Yep.
Of like taking care of themselves, but then the wife, and it also happens vice versa. So I'm not trying to say it's one way or another. The wife, where she starts feeling a little insecure about how she's feeling about what she's doing, and as opposed to like, you know, rising up, she brings the man down, or the man allows themselves to be brought down.
Right.
And next thing you know, that, you know, they're both in the same situation, like crabs in a bucket. And crabs in a bucket happens often in a marriage.
Yeah.
We did it to each other. And it's also happened vice versa, where the woman's trying to rise up and the man's like, oh, I support you, baby.
Yep.
I got you, baby.
Yeah.
But when they start moving at a high pace, they're like, hey, wait a minute.
Wait, you're going a little too
Where
fast.
Where are you going? I like,
You're going
what
too
happened
fast
to
there.
who you used to be? You used to make me dinner. Like, you used to always be here. We can't even go out anywhere. And it's like, it happens both ways.
Yeah.
So I've seen that a lot. Men are like, oh, I support my wife. No, you don't, dude.
Yeah.
You support her up to a certain level until you want your expectations
Right.
met. Then
Right.
if they're not met as far as the wife role, then you start having an issue
Right.
with your spouse.
Right.
So
Right.
we've seen this, and we used to do this to each other as well. I remember I tried to put the guilt trip on you as you were so focused on
Yeah.
getting your FEB Pro card. You were so focused on doing those things that I would kind of make things difficult for you. I would criticize. I would not be involved. I would have a bad attitude. But I love the fact that you continued on your path
Yeah.
with or without me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's another conversation we had where I was like, hey, with or without you, I'm going to continue to do these things over here.
Yeah. And it did. I think we were on a roller coaster because I did that to you. You did that to me. It was back and forth until we realized, like, man, this isn't going to work. You know, we're competing against each other, almost like a competitive and a negative.
In a negative way.
Versus like healthy competition. And so believe it took us quite some time to understand that. Because we were just shooting ammo at each other, and it was just not right.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate the fact that, you know, you held me accountable, and we held each other accountable to rise, because it wouldn't have happened. It definitely wouldn't have happened.
None of this would have happened.
No.
None of this. And we were so close where this wouldn't even, you know, be a possibility.
No.
And if we would have given up on each other, like, I just can't imagine not having what we have today.
Yeah.
You know, the bond, our daughters together, what we've been able to accumulate and build, that this almost wasn't the story.
No.
And it was the competitive attitude that we had in order to stay in, right?
Yeah.
And not to, and you know, our definition of success, at least mine was for many years, was like the amount of years we were together, the amount of years we tolerated each other. When in fact, it started declining at the moment we got married.
Yeah.
Right. It was a decline of respect, a decline of appreciation, a decline of love, and a lot of incline or increase of expectation.
Right.
Right. A lot of expectations and
that's what
entitlements.
Entitlement. Yep. That's what happens in a marriage. That's definitely what happens if you're, you know, one person is expecting the other person, and everything starts to fall apart. And you know what I think things start to happen when you don't speak up. I think when you're just comfortable and you're like, well, I don't want to start any fires, so I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to start any problems. And that's kind of where it all starts, because you get comfortable with like that. I get like you telling me certain things. I got comfortable with saying, well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to start any problems with him.
And what ended up happening, I just became more of a
exactly.
overbearing
and then
man.
I just blew up because I just got fed up, and it was just like, this is
kind of like men that allow their wives to like talk to them a certain way to a point where they do everything not to upset the wife. And I went like that because it came to a point where I was like, you felt your power in the relationship when you discovered.
I get so aggravated when I hear happy wife, happy life, and I'm like, for who? For her?
Yeah.
Is it for you? You know, it's a horrible way to live. It really is.
I know I was miserable, you were miserable, and it's like, but it only gets worse.
Yeah.
It only gets worse to a point where you lose yourself trying to pander about the other person, when it's like, hey, stand up.
Yep.
Man up.
Yep.
And a woman should stand up for what? Not just, I don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, I don't want to rock the boat. And that's exactly what it is all the time. But at the end of the day, no one's going to win. And your relationship is not going to grow.
Yeah, if whoever subdues themselves.
I had a client I was coaching a while back, and she said, you know, my aunt and uncle have been married for 30-some years. And going into the family things, we thought they were always happy because they were always hanging out, they're always laughing and all these things. And during the time that I was coaching her that year, the aunt and uncle got a divorce after 30-some years. And I said, and she was crying, and she had said, I couldn't believe it. The happiest marriage I ever thought was actually not happy at all, because my uncle constantly shut her down. And so she didn't have a life. She didn't have a voice. And it was all okay, because one question I asked him a while back, she asked her aunt and uncle, like, what keeps you guys together? And then it's like, well, we always get along. We're always happy. I always agree. There's no argument. I always pick my battles. And it's like, you shouldn't pick your battles. That shouldn't even be brought up. Pick your battles, right? It was like, speak up when you need to. Because if not, the man or the female, the other way, however you want to see it, will get comfortable treating you a certain way, and you think that's the norm.
Yeah.
So after 30-some years, the aunt filed for divorce because she's like, I'm fed up. I'm fed up in this relationship. So it's like, why didn't you speak up 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Why now? He thinks he's doing perfectly fine.
Everything's
when
going
you
well.
decided to be a mute in the relationship because you didn't want to bring up fire. It's like, I don't understand that. So and people might disagree or agree with our marriage, but I love my marriage. I love it because we speak our minds. It's like, we don't like it, we're going to speak up. Because I'd rather do it now than 10 years from this road.
Where you're holding it in.
Right.
And I think I think you did hold back, and I held back for so many years that it did implode on us. And we were this close of getting that divorce.
Right.
And that's what happens is we compromise too much, right? And everybody's talking about, in a marriage you should compromise. No. You got to stand up for what you believe in.
Right.
Right? And come into agreement. But being that doormat does not serve anyone.
Nope.
And it's about being when you're a competitor, you will voice your opinion.
Yep.
You will voice your thoughts and your passions and everything else that comes along with it.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, you don't bully me no more.
I try every once in a while.
Yeah, but
I
what
try
I
to
do,
bully you.
I just leave you in the room. I'm like,
You leave me standing in the dust. I'm like, damn.
I'm like,
I try to get you mad. I'm like, damn, he didn't get pissed off at all.
I don't get triggered.
He kept his cool.
Kept my cool because I know that at the end of the day, if I
try to piss you off though, because I'm trying to take notes. I'm like, take content.
I know content piss me off on purpose for content.
But I don't get nothing from you.
But let's read some comments here. I want to thank you for joining us for this live broadcast of Do the Work podcast, Love and Business. You can rewatch this or rehear this, I should say, on your favorite podcast provider. This will be released on Friday, right, Brennan? Friday. So if you didn't catch all of it, you can rewatch it here or just sign up for our podcast and make sure to rate and review and subscribe to our podcast. Your support is highly appreciated, and it makes us accessible to others. Okay, so the higher we're rated, the more access we have, the more visibility. And again, if it served you, please share it with someone else. We don't charge anything for this. We take time out of our day to discuss these things. So if you can give us some feedback, we'd love it. And also, don't forget to share it. But we got Patrick. Thank you for always putting some of your dark moments with us, which I'm sure helps a lot of us who may go through the same or similar obstacles. That has been the biggest weapon to winning the game of life, right, Carla? It's just putting that stuff out there, the darkness out there.
Right.
Not to air our dirty laundry, but to realize that there's something we got to learn from these things and these thoughts and these things that are trying to hold us back. And discussing this has made us more powerful, has made you more powerful.
Yes.
Like a lot of people are like, wait, Carla has anxiety? Wait, Carla was like real quiet around other people because you had extreme social anxiety.
Yeah.
And you still kind of,
I do.
go through
I
it.
don't think people didn't know me back then, and they did. I would show up, but I mean, guys, I would have a conversation with people, and my lower lip would just be shivering, and I can feel it, and it's like, I got to get out of here. And I've talked about, I'm not an alcoholic, but I drank a lot. I drank some shots before I headed out to an event that I had to go to, and there was a lot of things that I did, some damaging things to myself to just show up because the social anxiety really got the best of me. I would go 24 hours without a food in my mouth because I knew the anxiety, if I ate, it would upset me. There's so many damaging things that I did to myself. And I wish I can tell you guys all that. But the Carla that they know today, the people who barely came into my life are like, you were that person? I'm like, yeah, if you knew me back then, I definitely was not the Carla that you are seeing today. Yeah. Just because social anxiety really got the best of me. But I love it. I love it because I wouldn't be here today sharing my experiences.
And you still experience it, but it doesn't debilitate you just like it used to.
No.
And I've seen it. And sometimes when you're like, I know, like before I used to get upset, like when it always felt like whenever we had something great planned, like my birthdays, I would tell you like, you're ruining another birthday. That was like my weapon against you. But what I didn't realize is like you would do things to kind of get in a fight with us so that we wouldn't either go to an event or you just had so much that you had to kind of release a little bit. I didn't understand it. Right. And I thought it was against me that you were just being the B word that you were just, but I didn't realize that you were actually in a very anxious place.
And we actually lost a lot of friends. We lost a lot of friends through this process. And because you would always have to call
And
people
cancel. Hey, we won't be able to make it
Yeah,
because
we
we
don't
got
have
a big old fight.
babysitter. We don't have a babysitter. You would come up with something, or
Yeah.
we got an argument. We've kept 2 friends in our lives for a very long time, for a very, very long time, that have been our friends for a very long time. And they just found out and they were like, we get it.
Yeah.
But they've been a part of our lives, and I love them dearly. But yeah, I had anxiety, huge.
And I didn't know that. So I thought that
people just thought we were canceling plans all the time.
Yeah, but for us, I thought you would just do that on purpose, not knowing. Now, when you get into that place where you want to like start something with me, I'm like, okay, Carla's just kind of feeling the pressures right now. So we'll talk about it. Hey, babe, how you feeling? And then you'll tell me, hey, like this is what's triggering me right now. This is how I'm at. So I'll take times to be able to understand you. Before it was just like, oh, you're doing this to me. Now I'm going to do this to you. And it was just like blaming you. You're blaming me. And then,
You know, and it's a beautiful thing, because when people are rude to me, or if I feel like a certain, I don't know, if an attack by an individual, when you truly start knowing more about yourself and really loving where you come from and who you are, you start appreciating the other person no matter what mood they're in. So one of the things that I've gained so much perspective and so much love for mean, nasty, rude people, I just love them with all my heart, because it's like, you being rude or mean to me, it's not coming from who you actually are. It's coming from some sense of anxiety, or something that you don't know where you're coming from just yet. You don't know who you are just yet.
Insecurities.
Your insecurity and all kinds of things, right? So I love men and women, mainly women, because I get a lot of that from women, a lot of anger issues from women, and a lot of jealousy and hatefulness and just looks and stares. And I'm like, it's okay. I love you with my whole heart. I love you with my whole heart, because I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so I will kill them with kindness, truly authentic kindness, not just to kill them with kindness. No, I kill them with true, authentic kindness.
Because you wish people would have done that to you.
Because I wish people would have done that to me, would have had a little bit more patience, because I can't tell you thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times that I would run back 2 days later after my anxiety kicked in. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry if I was rude to you. That was my whole life, saying sorry over and over and over and over and over to people. And it was just like, man, I'm dying. And so when people are rude to me and treat me a certain way, I authentically love them with my whole heart, because it's like, I know where you're coming from, and it's okay. And your life becomes more peaceful.
And I've learned to also discover that in other people. Like when people are like, wow, did you see how this person is? I see that there's another layer behind it.
Right.
And I'm able to see that, and I can sympathize and empathize, because I've experienced that with you.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
in
really
order,
helped
and
me
I got
out.
to tell you, and it's a beautiful thing when it comes from a woman, because I see the beauty in all women, no matter how nasty and you can be, your attitude. I don't care how much you hate me. I don't care the nasty comments. You just see the beauty in a woman. I see beauty in all women, just because it's like, been there. And I wish somebody would have I wish I would have had more friends that loved that, just and understood me. But no, I lost them all. And I'm okay with that. I've said this before. I'm okay 100% with that, because it taught me and it brought me to this level, right? But I just see so much beauty in women when they're just not themselves.
And you always say something in your women's events about, showing love for another woman. What's that? I don't know if you recall, but you always say when you see another woman.
Yeah, no, I always say, when you see another woman, show them love, show them kindness, and give them goodness, because you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where they've been. You don't know their story, right? That's so cliche. Everyone says that, right? You don't know the other person's story. But honestly, go a day in finding out how many times you really compliment and hug, or, now due to whatever, but due to COVID, but saying kindness to other women. And I'm surrounded by 20-some women 3 days a week. I'm surrounded by women constantly. And one of my reasons and purpose is like to constantly give them that fire that they need, so they can go grab onto 20 other women. And it's just a beautiful cycle. It's just over and over and over again. But I always say, give love and patience to another woman if you are that woman.
Don't just look.
Compliment. Don't just look. Compliment. Say something. Speak up. And it's a beautiful thing, because you start to learn more about yourself. Like, man, I didn't realize I don't compliment women. I just stare at them, or I realize I'm this person, or I'm a mute, or I'm this. It's like, say something. Kill people with kindness, but authentically do it. Don't do it because you want something in return.
I love that. We have Carmela. Love this. You can heal from your past and at the same time let it fuel you. The times I feel the most motivated is when I think about where I came from and what I've been through. Absolutely. That is a motivating factor.
It is. And it is. And every single day, you got to bring something to the forefront. Every day. Because if it's just it's seasons, it's like, no, every day. So you become better, and you need that.
And that's the fire I think we need, is the comparison, not to others necessarily, but the comparison of our past, of where we've been, what we've been through, and how much we've endured to get where we're at. And I think that's exactly what Carmela is saying. Just based on who she is today as a strong businesswoman, married, kids, and just a very great life. We got Alyssa. Carla, you are such a blessing in so many people's lives. You helped change my mindset so much these last few months. You are a blessing in so many ways. Thank you for sharing this.
Oh, thank you, Alyssa.
We got Jessica. I used to get so uncomfortable around new people. My face would turn bright red. I'm much better now, but it still happens sometimes. Right. And this is what you're talking about, is just being able to be a competitor and say, okay, I just got to get through this. I got to be able to overcome this. And I build capacity. I build thick skin. I'm able to appreciate who I am and where I'm going, and not to just cater to somebody else.
Yeah, and Jessica, you brought up, like you said, your face used to turn bright red. That was my lower lip. It used to just freaking shake like a mad woman. But no, it's when you find out where that face comes from, you start to really know, when you feel that redness, it's like, okay, where am I going?
Where did it stem from?
Where did it come from? So really start to, take note of where it came from and start digging deeper than that. And the more you start to get to know yourself, the better it becomes, the better appreciation you have for the red face, the more appreciation I have for my lip that just shivers. It's an amazing feeling because I start to get to know more about me. And sometimes we have these things that are so hidden, dug deep. And it's like, oh, I forgot about that. Well, every little detail of your life matters. It makes a difference. It makes a difference because the more and more you start to rise these stories, the more you get to rise. So it's an amazing thing. So thank you for sharing that, Jessica, because it's huge.
And we got one final one. There's such an important message to get out there. We need more women lifting other women instead of hating. And that does happen. Yeah.
And it happens with men too, in a different format. Obviously, men and women are so different. Mm-hmm. Men have a different way of showing it. But, it's the same thing. But it's just being human. It's just being human. That's all it is. Everyone has that in them. It's just being human. But really, it's not about them. It's about you and trying to figure out why you are that person. But, everybody has that.
Well, I guess I think that was a very good topic. It fired me up, but so many points that stem from that, of why it's so important to become a competitor in life, to rise all aspects of your life, where it needs to be, and operate in a level where we need to be. Carla, it was awesome as always being here with you, sharing.
And thank you for all your beautiful comments. Makes me feel like I'm not the only one out there.
I'm not a freak.
Yeah. So thank you all for replying and saying something.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for joining us on this episode of Do the Work podcast. And again, make sure to rate, subscribe, and review our podcast and on your favorite podcast provider. Until then, we will talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Do the Work podcast, brought to you by Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting our site directly at dothework.com. For our audio listeners, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider. Finally, to stay up to date on the next time we will be going live, follow us on Facebook and Instagram.